All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our public information meeting on Alameda County Water District's proposed rates and charges for 2025 and 2026. My name is Ed Stevenson. I'm the general manager of the district. Together with me are two of our directors, Jim Gunther and John Weed, together with a number of staff, including John Wunderlich, our Director of Finance and Administration. And maybe what we can do is ask our staff to introduce themselves. How's that for a little twist? Maybe starting with Dan Stevenson,
Yeah, hi, good evening. My name is Dan Stevenson. I'm the Director of Operations and Maintenance.
and then Shireen Gonzalez,
Good evening, Shireen Gonzalez, Public Affairs Supervisor.
and then members of our finance team. You'll meet John Wunderlich in a moment. We also have Sydney Ohm.
Hi, my name is Sydney Alm. I'm the Financial Analysis Supervisor.
And Martin Curran.
Hello, my name is Martin Curran, and I am the Senior Financial Analyst.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate it. So tonight we're here to talk about our rate proposal. We're happy that we've had some interest from the public, and we wanted to present more information about our rate proposal. This is not a formal public meeting under the Brown Act. We haven't noticed this as a board meeting because we do not have a quorum of the board present. So this is purely a public information meeting, and we're happy to share information about our proposal. So next slide, please. Okay, so in our presentation this evening, we'll cover a number of things. First of all, we'll talk a little bit about ACWD. Make sure you know who we are. Make sure that you're familiar with the agency that serves you with provides you with water service and a number of other services. We'll talk about the process that we go through when we're evaluating and adjusting water rates. We'll talk about why water rates are even needed at all. It's a question, of course, that we get. We'll also talk about another question that we get, which is what are we doing to be efficient and to control costs at ACWD? And then we'll get a little bit deeper into the district's budget, our finances. We'll talk about the proposed water rates and charges themselves, and then pass along a little bit of information about how you can save money if you're interested in doing that. And then how you can learn more about the rates proposal, the rates process, and anything more about Alameda County Water District. So next slide, please. Okay, so first of all, a little bit about ACWD. We'll keep it short, but just so everybody is familiar with our agency. We are a public agency. We were formed by the voters of the Washington Township. That's a Tri-City area. And that means because we're a public water agency, that means we work for our customers. We do not work for corporate shareholders. We do not make a profit. What our customers pay for is only for the cost of the services that we actually provide. And we're an independent special district, which means we're not affiliated with any other agency. We're not affiliated, despite our name, we're not affiliated with Alameda County. We're not affiliated with any other city or other agency, so we're independent. Another thing that people often don't know, because so much of our infrastructure is kind of hidden from view, is we are very highly capitalized. We have a lot of infrastructure, and a lot of infrastructure is required to provide water service to our community. So, and we're solely responsible for building and operating and maintaining that infrastructure. We have to renew it over time so that it's always available to serve our customers and to provide for the functionality that it was designed for. And so that's a big part of our responsibility, and it's a big part of the overall costs and expenses that this district works with all the time. But even though we're independent as an agency, We are part of some large regional and statewide water systems, and I've named the two key ones here. And those are the State Water Project. And so this is the really large water system that brings water from really mostly Northern California. You hear about Lake Oroville, and you hear about all the Delta and all the Delta pumps, and you see those big canals when you're driving down Highway 5, in the Central Valley. That's all part of the State Water Project. And Alameda County Water District is a member of the State Water Project. In fact, we were the very first contractor throughout the state on the State Water State Water Project. And we're also part of the San Francisco Regional Water System. So this is sometimes known as the Hetch Hetchy Water System. This is the system that brings water in from a number of places, most sort of importantly from Hetch Hetchy Reservoir up in the Sierras, up in Yosemite National Park. And so these big water systems that we're a part of, they too are highly capitalized, have a lot of infrastructure, and that's what's needed to bring water in from hundreds of miles away into our service area in order to serve you. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, a little bit about ACWD kind of by the numbers here. We were founded over 110 years ago. It is our mission. You can see our mission there in that sort of green box above the photos. It's our mission to provide our customers with a reliable supply of high quality water at a reasonable price. And that's what every program and initiative and function of this agency is oriented to do, is to provide for that mission. And we, through that mission, we're serving about 342,000 people in the Tri-City area through about 87,000 service connections. That some of that infrastructure that I talked about includes over 916 miles of pipeline. And this is pipeline that's used to move water around the system, to serve your home or business. You're more than likely getting service from a pipeline that's out in front of your property. 960 miles is a lot of pipeline that has to be maintained, renewed, and operated. And really 960 miles is quite a distance. If you were to lay that pipeline out end to end, that would be much greater than the distance between here and Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. So that's a lot of pipeline that we've got to maintain. We also are responsible for 460 acres of water recharge ponds. You might know those as the Quarry Lakes Regional Recreation Area, Regional Park, and all of those ponds and lakes along the Alameda Creek corridor. We also have 3 major production facilities. We have 13 reservoirs and tanks, about 83 million gallons of water storage, 31 regulator and booster stations. These are pump stations, thousands of hydrants. And we do all of that through 242 budgeted positions. And we are a 24/7, 365 operation, meaning there are people who are working on our customers' behalf 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single day. There are people right now this evening as we speak that are operating our water production facilities, that are running water quality analyses, that are busy at work on behalf of our customers. And it's no different tonight than it is every other day, holiday in and out. So, but a little bit of information about ACWD. Next slide, please. So this is also more information about ACWD, but we wanted to make sure that you kind of understand where your water comes from. And so this pie chart sort of shows our water supply portfolio. You can see we have 3 main sources of supply. We'll start in the sort of upper right there. You see a picture of Alameda Creek. 40% of the water that we provide to our customers in a typical average year comes from the Alameda Creek watershed and from Alameda Creek. And that water, most of that water is used to recharge the Niles Cone groundwater basin, which is this highly, highly productive, really valuable resource that's under our feet here in the Tri-City area. And that is a major natural resource that ACWD actively manages and that we've been actively protecting and managing for over 100 years. So for me, the Alameda Creek supply and the local supply is really our most precious water resource. And so the other one that's shown there in sort of orange, that's the State Water Project. I talked about that. That's importing water from hundreds of miles away in the state, bringing water through the Delta and then through the State Water Project into the South Bay Aqueduct. That includes Del Val Reservoir. That includes local aqueducts and pipelines and pump stations. That water, then we bring that into our service area, and much of that water we treat at our surface water treatment plant. And so, so this too is a very important source of supply, and it's a big reason why the State Water Project and the Delta are so important to Alameda County Water District. And then up in the upper left-hand corner, you see our San Francisco PUC source of supply. This is that San Francisco regional water system that I talked about. You see the photo there is O'Shaughnessy Dam and Hetch Hetchy Reservoir up in the Sierras. And so again, that constitutes about 20% of our supply. So we have this very diverse portfolio that provides for a number of things, including obviously resiliency. We're not subject to the same sort of constraints oftentimes that some other water agencies are when they're reliant on one or maybe two sources of supply. But it also allows for us to be as efficient as we can and really optimize our use of the various supplies to focus on the overall lowest cost source of production for our customers too. And we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is what folks that are interested in seeing this material, this is what folks are interested in. And this is our water rates, and we'll talk more about the rate proposal, but the process we're showing here is kind of how we got to where we are this evening. So we have, we actually started this process back last spring. We had a series of 5 public financial workshops between May 2024 through into September 2024. In those discussions, we talked about the district's budget. We reviewed the various costs that we anticipate coming up over the next several years, anticipated and expected and sort of modeled revenue. We have a pretty sophisticated financial planning model where we try and make sure that we're projecting accurate costs and revenues as best we can for several years on behalf of our customers. And in those workshops, we also took a very close look at water demands, what those projected revenues might be. We also then calculated the rate increase that would be needed to meet the cost of service for providing for this infrastructure, for providing for the operations of the district well into the future. And then we evaluated a number of different options related to rate structure that could be used to collect revenue, to sort of bolster the district's overall operations going forward. So in addition to those 5 workshops, we also had a number of touch points with the board and the public through our regular monthly board meetings too. So the whole process is really structured to ensure that we have maximum participation from the public. The public has ample opportunity to participate in those discussions and voice your opinion about the matters that were presented and discussed. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so one of the questions that we get is like, why do we have to increase rates at all? Why are they necessary? And really the answer is, I guess you can kind of boil it down. The bottom line is that costs increase and the things that we need to do are expensive. And so, big, major sort of cost centers related to our finances include things like capital projects, and those span the whole gamut between water supply, water quality. We talked about that infrastructure that we have to renew. We also have to ensure that our infrastructure is resilient enough to withstand, natural disaster, earthquakes, and so forth. And so a lot of our capital program is centered around that infrastructure. We also deal with, participation in those big regional water systems also comes at a cost too, because those big regional water systems have the same infrastructure requirements that we do locally here. That goes to water quality and regulatory compliance too. You may have heard about, as an example, we recently constructed a PFAS treatment facility, and PFAS is per and polyalkyl substances. And these are those sort of forever chemicals that you may have heard about. Well, they're in some of the groundwater that we have, and we needed to take those PFAS out of the groundwater. And so what we needed to do in order to not only to comply with emerging regulations, but also to ensure that we're meeting our mission of only providing high quality water to our customers, we addressed that issue by building treatment processes that take that PFAS out of the water. Another number of improvements to our infrastructure include things like reservoir improvements and enhancements, and we've got an example coming up here too we can talk about. Increased regulations is always going to be an issue, and regulatory compliance is part of the business, and it's one of the things we have to ensure that we're keeping up with in order to provide you with the right levels of service. And then when I mentioned, increasing costs just generally, we as an agency that is doing our work on your behalf, we're subject to many of the same sorts of cost increasing pressures on costs that you are subject to. I'm a ratepayer here at Alameda County Water District. I live in our service area, and I pay more for energy. I pay more for eggs and bread and everything else, right? So we're subject to those same inflationary pressures that everyone else is. Plus, some of our cost categories really increase much faster or much more quickly than normal inflation rates. An example here, it's just an example, but is the cost of that 20% of our supply of that San Francisco regional water system, as an example there, that cost went up by nearly 9% just last year. And so, these are the types of things that, we confront just like our customers do. In addition, we need to ensure that our finances are strong, because we do use some level of debt in order to minimize, the spikes in costs, particularly in the capital program, and ensure that, when we build something that is going to last a really long time, that we're spreading that cost over that long period of time. But in order to do that at the best rate for our customers and do it at as low a cost as we can, we need to maintain a strong financial position, ensure that we can meet those debt covenants and maintain sufficient reserves, so that we have a great bond rating, which we do, and we're very proud of. But that requires some, very stout and careful management of our finances. Okay, next slide, please.
I'll just stop here for just a quick second. We've had a new member of the public join us, Cesar Lopez, that I see on the attendees list. My name is John Wunderlich. I'm the Director of Finance and Administration at the district and the Zoom host for this evening. If at any point you have any questions, feel free to send them to me or raise your hand, And just to let you know where we are in the presentation, Ed Stevenson, District General Manager, has been giving a little background about the district and some of the pressures we're facing that have led to the rate increase. And so he'll continue for a few more slides, and then I'll pick up the presentation and get into some of the details about the rate proposal. So with that interlude, Ed, I'll turn it back to you to continue.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Yeah, and welcome, Caesar. It's nice to have you on board. And we are sort of, yeah, you can see we're on slide 8, so you missed a little bit, but we're recording this, Caesar, so you should be able to go back and take a look at it anytime at your convenience. So, Caesar, I'd mentioned a number of things, including, some of the sort of the reasons why, operating our water system is expensive. And part of that has to do with our need for capital expenditures. And so I wanted to provide a couple of examples here about what we're talking about when we say, capital expenditures and what sort of capital projects are we doing on behalf of our customers. And, I talked a fair amount about the fact that we're highly capitalized, have a lot of infrastructure, and we really need to make sure that we're maintaining that infrastructure. We are in it for the long term, not just day to day. We need to ensure that our infrastructure is in a position to serve our customers into the long term, and we take our ownership and management responsibility of these assets and resources really seriously. So here's some examples of some of those capital projects that are shown on the screen here. On the upper left there, we have it's a photo of the inside of one of our potable water reservoirs. What's shown there is our Alameda Reservoir. It's about a 17 million gallon reservoir, and we're showing that one because we just recently completed a project to seismically improve that reservoir, to improve the roof and improve the structure's ability to withstand an earthquake. And also to improve, water quality within the reservoir, to improve site security and things like that. So obviously, this was a fairly big project. It was, very expensive. So I just wanted to show one of the examples there. Another one there in the upper middle part of the slide is our groundwater PFAS treatment facility. I talked a little bit ago about what PFAS really is and why we need to address PFAS as part of our mission. And here's just a photo of a part of the water treatment process that we constructed recently. And again, that's in order to continue to meet our mission of providing a reliable supply of high quality water to our customers. We needed to take that PFAS, so those per and polyfluoroalkyl alkyl substances, out of the water. On the right-hand side, you have a couple of photos that show some of the work on our main renewal and seismic improvement program. And this is where we're constantly renewing and upgrading our water transmission and distribution system. These are the pipes that you rely on for service to your home or business, to all the fire hydrants throughout the service area. And this is I talked a little earlier about 916 miles of pipe. This is part of that pipe, and we renew a part of it, every year. And that's a big job. And so we know that, many of our customers have seen us out in the field doing this work. We do acknowledge, and we certainly regret that, it comes not only at a financial cost, but it also comes at an impact to the community, because water pipelines and things like that are in almost every case, they're buried under streets. And, and so we know that we can inconvenience some of our neighbors during this work, but it is worth it in the end, because in the end we have more reliable, more economical water delivery systems in place. Lower left there is some photos that represent our fish passage improvement projects. We had a whole program up and down Lower Alameda Creek, where we ensure that that creek is not only a flood control channel and a water supply resource, but it's also a migration corridor for certain species, including threatened Central Coast steelhead. And that's the photo that's shown there on the slide. And as part of our water supply operations, we know we have to be good stewards to the environment too. And sometimes that can be pretty expensive. We actually built some fish ladders. We really improved our water infrastructure up and down Alameda Creek, screened our water diversions, and did a number of other things at a significant cost. But that provides for meeting our mission. It provides for our ability to be stewards of the environment, in addition to providing water to our community. And then the last photo there in the middle on the bottom represents our clean energy program. This is a multi-year program that is really focused on reducing our cost of our operations by further reducing our energy-related costs, electricity costs, and what we have to purchase from the grid, really focusing on microgrids, focusing on generating our own solar power in a pretty significant scope and scale. We're already pretty efficient from an energy standpoint. We're always working to become more efficient. We already do generate a significant amount of hydropower. And we have some solar now, but we're really increasing by significant margins the amount of solar power that we generate. And really the overall point there is to minimize our overall cost of energy, keep our overall cost of operations as low as we can for our customers. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so there's another question that we get: what's ACWD doing to be efficient and to control costs? And so, we could kind of go on for quite a while here, but I'll try and keep it short. We kind of have two sort of categories here, in my mind anyway. We have the things that we just kind of do every day. It's kind of built into our DNA. And that is what we call here our longstanding practices. These are just things that we are constantly doing. I talked at the very outset about our diverse water supply portfolio and the different water supplies that we have. And I talked about some of the advantages of having that diverse portfolio. Well, a key one when it comes to finances and when it comes to cost is the ability to maximize the use of the lowest cost water during our normal operations. We're always optimizing our water operations, not only for cost, but also when it comes to supply, we're optimizing for the availability of water in the future, right? Depending on hydrology, we need to ensure that we've got water stored away and available both locally and on an imported water basis in case of a drought. So we're always kind of planning on not just this year, but next year and multiple years in advance. Refinancing existing debt to lower debt service cost. I talked a little bit about sort of our use of debt in order to spread costs out for our customers and also ensure that we're financing infrastructure that has a very long life with financing instruments that also have a long life. We also team up with other agencies in several ways, including trying to minimize overall project costs by kind of trying to join forces on different projects such that we're doing projects jointly, reducing not only the cost but also impacts on the community. And we also sort of join forces with other agencies and other entities on things like really trying to maximize our buying power by seeking larger quantities of some of the things that we all need. In our case, chemicals, various materials and supplies, and that helps to keep our costs down too. And then there's the various initiatives, very specific programs and projects that we do. Got a couple examples here. One is advanced metering infrastructure, and our customers are, I think, very familiar at this point with our AMI program. And we've now rolled AMI out to all of our customers throughout our service area. That's great for our customers because it gives all of our customers the ability to really be fully informed about their water use, to really track and manage their water use. It also provides for higher accuracy in terms of water metering, but importantly, when it comes to financial matters, it provides for long-term reductions in cost and savings operationally for us. We are equipped with a lot of information that we didn't have in the past that really helps us to optimize our operations and keep our costs as low as we can keep them. You know, and I talked a bit about our solar program. I talked about microgrids. You know, as a water agency, a big part of our overall energy use has to do with moving water and pumping water and so forth. And so the equipment that does that is obviously very expensive, but it's also uses a lot of energy. And so a lot of what we do is to optimize our equipment, to optimize our use of energy, and we're shooting for the lowest overall cost of operations by being as economical as we can. Other things that we do, we're transitioning now to a leased fleet program and also reducing the number of vehicles in our fleet, again, in order to be more as efficient as we can, and to reduce our overall costs. And then we're always monitoring things like, you know, are we optimally applying our staffing resources in the right areas? Do we have the right number of people? Are we able to be as efficient as we can with our staffing? And so just recently, as an example, we trimmed our overall number of budgeted positions down by a few. I put it on the slide as an example that these are things that we do to ensure that we're being as efficient as we can for our customers. Okay, next slide. Okay, so just another couple of examples here, and I know you're probably getting tired of listening to me talk, so this will be my last slide, and then I'll pass it on to John Wunderlich, who can get more into the stuff that maybe you came to learn more about. But did want to mention that not only are we trying to ensure that we're operating as efficiently as we can and that we're keeping our costs down, we're also seeking, and we're pretty aggressive about seeking, you know, grant funding, external funding where we can, grants and reimbursements. And we've been very successful at that. And we intend to continue to be. I talked a bit about our fish passage improvement program. As that program as an example, I think we had on the order of $36 million worth of grants and reimbursements in order to help fund that program and those various projects. We're also estimating right now that we'll receive on the order of about 19 million or so in the next couple of fiscal years to fund projects that are ongoing that we'll be working on too. You see all the various agency and entity logos on the right-hand side of the slide. These are some examples of the entities that we work with in terms of grants and external funding. I also mentioned our use of debt to try and keep our overall costs down and also manageable over time. And part of that has to do with ensuring that we've got very good bond ratings. And we actually do. We have excellent bond ratings, which help to keep those costs low and help us to spread them out over time. We are planning to issue additional debt here in 2025. And this was also an opportunity for us to save additional costs by refinancing existing debt at lower rates, depending on how the market works this spring. Okay, with that, I think I'm turning it over now to Mr. Wunderlich. So he can kind of go a little bit more into the financial matters. John.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. So I'm going to just go over the district budget a little bit and exactly how the proceeds from the rate increase will be allocated. And then I'll get into the details of exactly what the rate increase means for individual customer bills. So what we see on this pie chart here is just a kind of representation of where the district spends the money it receives from its customers. The solid portions represent district labor costs, and the shaded portions represent third-party costs. So, for example, on the top left side of the pie chart, we have source of supply labor at 5%. And what that means is 5% of our total budget is for the staffing-related costs to manage our water supplies. Source of supply other, 25%. So 25% of our total budget goes to pay the San Francisco Regional Water System, the State Water Project, and other external parties that supply us with water. And so overall, what we can see here is that approximately 80% of our budget goes to water supply, infrastructure improvements and operations and maintenance. Another 4% goes to debt service on prior capital improvements. And then approximately 14% of the budget goes to the administrative overhead of the district, the finance team, IT, HR, all those types of typical overhead functions that any organization has. Okay, so the proposed 4% rate increase will generate about $5 million in additional revenue. We typically don't look at that revenue as being allocated to meet our debt service, as we need to make those bond payments with or without the rate increase. And so in terms of the different cost elements, this is how that money will be allocated between capital projects, third-party water purchases, third-party O&M payments, such as the purchase of chemicals and our own power costs. We are a big customer of PG&E, and then a little over a third will go to support the costs of maintaining the district's workforce. Okay, and then this is just another breakdown, again, with the solid portions here representing the labor share and the shaded representing the third-party payments. And so as you can see, for example, the green operations and maintenance is very labor intensive. So most of the money allocated to increasing O&M costs is for district staff. But capital and source of supply costs, those are mostly payments to contractors that win the bids for our major construction projects, as well as the payments to San Francisco and the state water system. And so most of that is payments to third parties. Okay, so now I'll get into the next few slides, what this actually means for water rates. Most residential customers have a 5/8 or 3/4 inch meter, which means the current service charge is $63.75 bi-monthly. And with the proposed 4% increase, that will go up to $66.30, or about a $2.55 increase bi-monthly. And then another 4% increase, increasing it to $68.95 effective March 1 of 2026. Okay, and then the consumption charges for that are paid based on how much water each customer uses. And so our billing rate is 100 cubic feet, which is approximately 748 gallons. The current rate is $4.97 per unit. That's proposed to increase 4% as well, increasing to $5.17 per unit effective March 1st. And then again to $5.38 March 1st of 2026. We also provide service for dedicated fire service connections. Typically, this would not apply to a single-family home. Most of these connections are going to be for apartment complexes or commercial, kind of business parks and large office buildings. And in those types of larger connections, they actually have a separate connection specifically to serve a fire sprinkler system that runs throughout that complex. And so they pay a separate service charge for that dedicated private fire service based on the share of system capacity dedicated to being able to support that system. And so that's also proposed to go up 4% effective March 1. Okay, drought surcharges. This is the fourth and final water-related rate that we'll be reviewing and is proposed to increase. Drought surcharges are not in effect. The district currently has sufficient water supplies to meet our normal demands. But as our customers know, in past drought situations, we have implemented a surcharge to attempt to recover some of the revenue that's lost when demand decreases during a drought. And that's because most of the cost of operating our system are fixed. And so we do we're not able to kind of proportionally save money when consumption goes down. And so again, these are not currently in effect and would only be implemented if the district's board formally declares a water shortage emergency. A couple of years ago, that was the situation, and we did implement a drought surcharge based on a 15% reduction in water demand. So currently, that surcharge, if it were in effect, would be 85 cents per unit, and that would be on top of the base charge of $4.97 per unit. And so that is proposed to increase to 89 cents per unit effective March 1 of this year. But again, these surcharges are not in effect, and we do not anticipate a need for them during this year. So to add up both the commodity and service charges to get the total impact on a typical residential bill, which is 16 units of water bi-monthly or approximately 200 gallons per day, what we would see is a total increase in the bill from $143.27 today up to $149.02 effective March 1st, or an increase of just a little under $6 per bill. And then with the next 4% increase effective March 1 of 2026, we would see that new typical bill increasing to $155.03, or a $6.01 increase compared to what's proposed to be effective March 1 of 2025, or approximately $11.76 compared to today's typical bill. So how does this impact all of our customers? The blue bars represent residential and green non-residential. And so 42% of residential customers, we would expect to see less than a $5 impact in their bill based on the proposed increase. We would expect 90% of residential customers to see an increase of less than $10 per bill. It's a little more spread out for non-residential. We have a number of very large non-residential customers. If you think about major industrial facilities, something like the Tesla plant here in Fremont, they use a lot of water. A 4% rate increase for them adds up to a large dollar amount. And so 15% of non-residential customers would see their bills go up by more than $50 bi-monthly. We're sometimes asked how our water rates compare to other water providers in this area. We survey 30 other water providers in the Bay Area each year to see how we compare. Currently, we are the fourth lowest relative to the agency surveyed. And with the proposed 4% increase effective March 1, we would continue to be the fourth lowest. The three that are less than us are the cities of Santa Clara, Sunnyvale, and Pleasanton. We're frequently asked by customers how they can save money. A couple of options that we wanted to review. First is that for income qualifying customers, we have a customer assistance program known as Help on Tap. And this program provides a benefit equal to the typical residential customer service charge of $63.75. So that the amount of this benefit will increase with the rate increase to continue to mirror the typical service charge amount. In order to qualify, customers do need to show proof of income status that's below the greater of 50% of area median income or 250% of the federal poverty level. Most of the customer bill is made up of consumption charges based on how much water the customer is using. And so another thing we do is we offer complimentary water checkups and water saving devices. We also have a number of water conservation programs to support identifying leaks, replacing grass, and other types of programs, including irrigation controllers and things like that that can help customers reduce their water use, which will help you lower your bill. We also have a number of programs for commercial customers, which frequently have different needs as it relates to water use and efficiency. And so here we've listed a number of those programs, which include many of the same things we do for residential customers with turf replacement and irrigation controllers, but we also, given the volume of water involved, have some additional programs related to surveys and high efficiency toilet and urinal rebates. So we conducted an in-person community meeting earlier this week at Newark Library, and we're conducting this meeting on Zoom tonight to share more information about the rate proposal with our customers. Customers interested in learning more are, of course, welcome to attend the formal public hearing, which will be February 13th at 6 p.m. at the district offices here on Grimmer Boulevard in Fremont. And at that meeting, staff will make a brief presentation similar to what's been presented this evening, and then members of the public will have time to provide any comments they wish to our board of directors. We also have all of the information related to our rates process and proposal available on our website at acwd.org/rates. And there you can see information about all the workshops we've held. You can see a copy of our formal rate notice. You can see copies of all the studies that have been prepared. And then that's also where you can go if you are interested in submitting a formal protest against the rate increase. So that concludes staff's presentation for our community meeting this evening. And at this point, we will open it up for any questions. And Caesar, just so you know, you are actually the only person on the meeting who is not a district staff or board member. So it's really up to you. Any questions you have, we'd be happy to answer them.
And Caesar, while you're coming up with your long list of questions for John, I actually did a bit of an introduction of staff and members of the board that are present at the very beginning. And in that, I neglected to scroll down far enough on my screen and recall that Jackie McLeod, who is the special assistant to the general manager, is also here. And I wanted to acknowledge Jackie and have her say hello, because one of the reasons I was suggesting that folks introduce themselves is so that anybody who is attending can see your face too. And just like they could if we were in person in our meeting that we had earlier in the week. So Jackie, just want to say hi.
Hi, nice to virtually meet you, Caesar, even though I can't see you. And thank you, Ed.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. And sorry for not scrolling far enough earlier.
All right,
Not a
so Caesar has sent me a chat saying all good, thank you. So I don't believe he intends to ask any questions. So Caesar, we thank you for being here this evening. And if you have any interest to learn more or follow up with us, you're certainly welcome to attend the public hearing in a couple of weeks or to visit the acwd.org/rates webpage and see more information. And there are also options through that webpage to email the district's rates team or to submit a formal protest.
All right. Well, I guess I will thank everyone for participating this evening. And thank you, Caesar, for joining us. And I think in the absence of any other items, I think we'll adjourn.